Y News. The Land Transportation Franchising and Regulatory Board warns to cancel the franchise of the public utility vehicle operators who joined today's nationwide transport strike. Senate passes on the third and final reading a bill that seeks to postpone the barangay and Sangguniang Kabataan elections. New Bilibid prison inmates question the legality of the revised GCTA laws implementing rules and regulations before the Supreme Court. Northern Luzon Police Director Police Brigadier General Gilbert Cruz denies he wrote an application letter to be the next PNP chief. And the palace belittles proposed U.S. entry ban of Philippine officials behind Senator Laila de Lima's detention. Good evening. The Philippine government insists they will proceed with the long-overdue public utility vehicle modernization program despite the nationwide transport strike today. But transport groups warn of another possible nationwide transport strike that may take weeks or months if the government fails to address their concerns on the PUV modernization program. Joan Nano tells us why.
A lot of commuters had a hard time getting to their destinations this Monday because several transport groups went on strike beginning early morning.
Wala, late na. Wala tayong magawa. Oo, pero isa talaga.
Maraming abala, tanghali na, hindi pa kami nakakasakay. Sana wag namang idamay pati mga pasahero.
Mabigat po yung ganyan. Pagka may pasok, kung mahirap sumakay ang mga tao. Marami na abala, lalo na nagmamadali.
Despite the PUV operators and drivers' call not to pursue the modernization program, the government maintains it will continue. In a statement, Presidential spokesperson Salvador Panelo says the modernization of public transport system has been long overdue. He adds its implementation is part of the administration's commitment to serve the interests of the citizens for convenient and accessible public transportation. Some city governments suspended classes in colleges and universities, while some public offices canceled work. With this, the Alliance of Concerned Transport Organization, or ACTO and Piston, claimed the nationwide transport strike was successful. The transport groups say this only shows that the government is recognizing their forces and that they could paralyze the public transport system.
Pinalalabas kasi ng LTFRB na hindi na kami kailangan. Ngayon, pinakita namin na kailangan pa kami ng serbisyo ng mamamayan at kailangan pa kami ng serbisyo para sa gobyerno.
Tuloy lahat naman ng inilulunsad na tigil pasada ay success. Ang hamon nga namin kay Pangulong Duterte, kailangan muling pag-aralan yung kanilang programa sa usapin ng modernization. Hindi lang po driver, hindi lang operator, yung sasalantain ito mismo, yung mga mananakay, mismo yung mga pasahero.
The Department of Transportation and the Metro Manila Development Authority, however, belittled the impact of the transport strike. Joanano, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
The Land Transportation Franchising and Regulatory Board warns those who join today's nationwide transport strike. The LTFRB says it will cancel public utility vehicle operators' franchises and will recommend the cancellation of the licenses of drivers who participated in the strike. Mari Bermudez will tell us why.
Sanctions await public utility vehicle operators and who joined the transport strike that began this morning across the country. According to the Land Transportation Franchising and Regulatory Board, this is in accordance with LTFRB Memorandum Circular, which prohibits participation in such activities. The LTFRB insists granting a franchise is a privilege and operators have the responsibility to render transport service to the riding public.
Nagkakansela yung prangkisa nila, which we already have done. Even in the past administration na meron transport group, meron yung mga bus units na nag-participate sa strike, kinansela rin. And recently, last week, we also have canceled more than 20 PUJ franchises.
The licenses of PUV drivers who joined the mass transport strike may be subjected to suspension or cancellation. Transport leaders who encourage drivers to temporarily halt their operations will not face sanctions but with certain conditions.
So long as hindi sila lalabag sa batas, ibig sabihin hindi sila haharang, hindi mambabato sa mga sa mga gusto pang bumiyahe at marami naman din silang gustong bumiyahe.
Transport Group Reston says their alliance is not against PUV modernization. However, they oppose several provisions under the omnibus franchising guidelines of the government's PUV modernization program.
Ang tinututulan namin dito yung pamamaraan ng pagbumodernize na inaabsolute, pinupwersa kami na magbago ng moda ng transportasyon. Halimbawa, ang sinasabi nila doon sa omnibus franchising guidelines, ang papayagan na lang nila ay pag ikaw ay membro ng corporation o membro ka ng kooperatiba, anong gagawin mo doon sa mga individual owners na mga operator? Saan mo sila ilalagay? Ano maging kinabukasan?
Several transport groups meanwhile also oppose the jeepney phase-out, saying the government is not yet ready for such big change.
Anong mangyayari doon sa mga driver at mga operator? Kung sa driver nga ay ang mawawalan dito, sa mga operator ang mawawalan dito ay umabot ng 174,000 at 600,000 ng mga driver ay saan kukuha nung pangangailangan ng kanilang pamilya?
Mai Bermudez, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
Oil companies are set to have an oil price rollback this week. Phoenix Petroleum already implemented an oil price rollback on Sunday. Their gasoline price went down by 1 peso and 55 cents per liter, while diesel was down by 50 cents per liter. Sea Oil Philippines has also reduced their gasoline price by 1 peso and 45 cents per liter, diesel by 60 cents per liter, and kerosene by 1 peso per liter. Meanwhile, Petrogas and Filipina Shell will implement the price rollback tomorrow. Petrogas cut prices of gasoline by 1 peso and 55 cents per liter and diesel by 50 cents per liter, while Filipina Shell will cut prices of gasoline by 1 peso and 45 cents per liter, diesel by 60 cents per liter, and kerosene by 1 peso per liter. There will be no extension of the deadline the Department of the Interior and Local Government set for the clearing operations required of local government units nationwide. Mayors may face suspension once they are proved of neglect, the DILG says. Ray Pelayo will tell us why.
The 60-day period allotted for local governments to clear the public roads and spaces in their respective vicinity ended yesterday, September 29. DILG Undersecretary Jonathan Malaya said they have formed validation teams to check until Saturday, October 5, if every LGU complied. The validation team will primarily check the ordinances passed by the LGUs, like for terminals and local fun fares, if they accomplished their targets based on their inventory, if roads have been cleared of identified obstructions, and if they have sets of strategies to address displacement like vendors and basketball courts. After the validation, LGU will be issued a show cause order.
Kasi we have to give due process to the mayor kasi baka mauwi sa suspension niya.
Si Secretary Anyo ang re-recommenda kay Presidente kung sinong mga mayor ang sususpindihin.
Yusek Malaya points out the mandate of local governments do not end here. The department will launch a national campaign to inculcate discipline in every individual. There are LGUs which already observe discipline, such as Marikina City.
So kailangan ipaunawa natin sa ating mga kababayan na kung gusto natin ng pagbabago, magmumula ang disiplina sa kanila.
The DILG will award LGUs and groups who will support this campaign. Ray Pelayo, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
The Department of Public Order and Safety, or DPOS, demolishes the concrete fence of a religious group's building in Cubao, Quezon City. According to the group's leader, they understand why DPOS had to demolish the fence. Aiko Miguel tells us why.
The Quezon City depots continued their clearing operations today. Their focus was on a concrete fence of a religious group in Cubao. They began taking it down last September 25. But because it was too thick, they were not able to finish the operation in one day. They returned to the area today to totally dismantle the concrete fence. The religious group's administration had been given a notice for a year already to inform them that the fence was an obstruction. According to DIPOS, because of the existing department order, the dialogue between them and the religious group went well.
1 year na itong notice na ito na kinukuha na natin yung setback nito. It so happened na ngayon lang talaga nag-post through.
According to the group's leader, they understand why DIPOS had to demolish the fence, though it had been there for decades.
Because we know na makakabuti naman sa lahat ito at pantay naman yung pagtingin nila sa lahat. Lahat kasi talagang ginigibanan nila eh.
Tomorrow, Quezon City will be inspected by the DILG validation team to ascertain whether public spaces and roads in the city are 100% obstruction-free after the 60-day clearing operations period.
Para sa akin, nasa reliable compliance na tayo sa 100%. Kung ano man yung maiwan dito siguro, mga isolated na lang ito na naiwan namin kasi sa sobrang laki ng structure.
Aiko Miguel, UNTV, News and Rescue, Quezon City.
With votes 21 in favor, 0 negative and 0 abstention, Senate Bill number 1043 that seeks to postpone the barangay and Sangguniang Kabataan elections was approved by Senate on the third and final reading today. If passed into law, the measure will postpone the elections to December 5, 2022, while subsequent elections will be held on the first Monday of 2025 and every 3 years thereafter. The Senate bill is set to be deliberated upon in the Bicameral Conference Committee to reconcile with the version of the House of Representatives. The approval of the postponement of the polls came after President Rodrigo Duterte asked Congress during his last State of the Nation address to again put on hold the barangay and SK elections. Last-minute registrants flocked to COMELEC offices for the last day of voter registration today. COMELEC has not announced any extension of the registration. Aiko Miguel is back to tell us why.
The Commission on Elections, or COMELEC, expected an influx of last-minute registrants today. According to COMELEC spokesman Director James Jimenez, their employees prepared for the last-day scenario of voter registration for the May 2020 Barangay and Sangguniang Kabataan elections, or BSKE. Even the office of the election officer was filled with registrants.
Nakahanda yung kaloobang pumila kasi medyo ngayon lang nagkaroon ng time din. Pero kailangan talagang bigyan ng oras.
Most of those who queued are youth who took the chance to register since their classes were suspended because of the nationwide transport strike. Just like Shane, who is a first-time voter.
Tayo naman po kasi kahit may time na in-allot, madalas pa rin po naghahabol pa rin po tayo.
An express lane was given to persons with disability, senior citizens, and pregnant women. Enriqueta, 62, said she was able to register conveniently.
Carry pa naman so far. Okay naman kasi senior naman ako. I have learned my lesson, so next time, better go earlier.
Based on COMELEC's report, there are 2.6 million registered voters since the registration started last August 1. As there is no law yet which postpones the BSKE scheduled on May 2020, they will continue preparing for the polls. Aiko Miguel, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
Malacanang PSC Camao proves to be a team to beat as they record 2 wins and 0 loss on the 4th game day of the League of Public Servants this season. Bernard Dadis will tell us why.
The AFP Cavaliers and Malacanang PSC Camao now leads Group A and B respectively. This after Malacanang accomplished a coming from behind win against the NHA Builders 77-76 on Sunday at the Pasig City Sports Center. The Builders held the advantage in the first half of the ball game until the last minutes of the third quarter. But the situation turned upside down through Joseph Roque's buzzer beater tray, stealing the lead from NHA 59-60. And in the fourth quarter, the two sides played neck and neck. But Camao's strict defense barred the NHA from converting top shots to points until the last buzzer of the game went off.
Gusto talagang manalo ng players ko. So nag-struggle lang kami nung first half. So sinabi ko sa kanila, ilaro lang yung dapat ilaro, dumipensa kami ng ayos.
Eric De La Cuesta and Joseph Roque were hailed the best players of the game with combined scores of 37, while Bisu Dasabier contributed 12 points and Ian Garrido 11 points. Alvin Bitog and Marvin Mercado, who both scored double-double, led the Builders.
Malacanang played a good game. May mga lapses kami, lalo na sa end game, pero madali naman i-correct yun sa practice. So, babawi na lang. Maganda yung nilaro nila eh.
In yesterday's first game, the Judiciary Magis defeated the GSIS Furies 88-72, while PITC Global Traders entered the win column after beating PhilHealth Plus in the second game 95-74. Bernard Dadis, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
Welcome back to Y News. We pick up to where Alex Baltasar left off. I am William Theo, and here are the headlines. New Bilibid prison inmates question the legality of revised GCTA laws implementing rules and regulations before the Supreme Court. Alleged cohort of suspected drug queen Gia Gomez Castro nabbed in Sampaloc, Manila. The Philippine National Police denies hands on the recall of PDEA Director General Aaron Aquino's police escorts. Northern Luzon Director Police Brigadier General Gilbert Cruz denies he wrote an application letter to be the next PNP chief. And 30 billion peso deal on patrol vessels between the Department of National Defense and the Australian government could be at risk due to President Rodrigo Duterte's order. Good evening. 8 new Bilibid prison inmates file a petition before the Supreme Court. They question the legality of some provisions in the revised implementing rules and regulations of the Good Conduct Time Allowance Law. Nel Maribuhok tells us why.
New Bilibid prison inmates appealed to the Supreme Court to nullify and void some provisions of the IRR of the Republic Act No. 10592 or the GCTA law. In particular, they questioned the exclusions of heinous crime convicts, recidivists, habitual delinquents, and escapees as GCTA beneficiaries. Based on the petition for certiorari and prohibition filed at the Supreme Court on September 24, the said provisions are going beyond the law. The petition also seeks to void the transitory provisions of the GCTA IRR. The provision states there is distinction between persons deprived of liberty or PDL who started serving their sentence before and those after the effectivity of the GCTA law. Under the revised IRR, the disqualified PDL who had been detained or started serving his sentence before the GCTA law took effect can still enjoy GCTA benefits granted by the revised penal code but not under the said new law, while those sentenced as the GCTA law has taken effect will no longer gain any time allowance credits even under the revised penal code. The said provision is against the Bill of Rights of the Constitution. The petitioners also asked the Supreme Court to order the Bureau of Corrections and the Bureau of Jail Management and Penology to recompute time allowances of the petitioners and all inmates who have similar situations for their immediate release. The respondents in the petition are DOJ Secretary Menardo Guevara, DILG Secretary Eduardo Año, Bucor Director General Gerald Bantag, and BJMP Chief Alan Suliano Iral. According to the Justice Secretary, he will not comment on the petition as the Office of the Solicitor General will serve as the representative of the respondents. Despite this, according to the Secretary, he has been eagerly awaiting this petition to know the correct legal interpretation of the Supreme Court amid the different interpretations of various parties. Nel Maribuhok, UNTV News and Rescue, Manila.
Meanwhile, a man was arrested in a buy-bust operation in Sampaloc, Manila last Saturday. Allegedly, he is a cohort of the so-called drug queen Gia Gomez Castro. Mayor Isko Moreno Dumagoso meanwhile wants to ask the commission on elections why Gomez Castro was able to run for public office despite her standing warrants of arrest. Harleen Delgado explains why.
Mayor Isko Moreno Dumagoso earlier today presented an alleged cohort of the drug queen of Manila,
identified as Marlon de la Cruz. According to the mayor, de la Cruz is one of the persons of interest of the Philippine National Police and the Philippine Drug Enforcement Agency or PDEA. 8 sachets of suspected shabu worth 30,000 pesos were seized from de la Cruz.
And then siya naman nagsasabi ang droga na kukuha niya dun lang din. Yes, maybe po na konektado.
Mayor Dumagoso, meanwhile, questions how Castro was able to exit the country despite her 3 standing warrants of arrest in years 2002, 2003, and 2011.
Take 7 years to furnish a copy of warrant to respective agencies of government. There must be something wrong with our system.
The mayor challenges the International Criminal Police Organization or Interpol and the national government of Thailand to capture and bring Castro back to the Philippines. Castro, a former village chief in Manila, was earlier confirmed to have left the country last September 21 for Bangkok, Thailand.
Isoli nyo sa amin yan at iharap namin yan sa husgado.
They will also label Barangay 484 an area of concern to identify other village executive cohorts of Castro. Meanwhile, Senate Minority Leader Franklin Drilon today called on the Department of Foreign Affairs to cancel Gomez Castro's passport. Drilon said that under Philippine Passport Act, the Foreign Affairs Secretary is authorized to cancel a passport in the interest of national security or when the holder of the passport is a fugitive from justice. Harleen Delgado, UNTV News and Rescue, Manila.
The Philippine National Police deny that the recall of the PDEA Director General's police escorts is part of the PNP's revenge amid the issue on rogue cops. PNP spokesperson Police Brigadier General Bernard Banac says policemen from Region 3 will be used for the security force in the Southeast Asian Games. Leia Ilagan reports why.
The issue on the Ninja Cops has nothing to do with the recall of PDEA Director General Aaron Aquino's 15 police escort last September 18.
None, of course, none. Nag-usap kami ni General Aquino. In fairness naman sa kanya, sinabi niya it has nothing to do with yung lalo na yung nasabi niyang ramat. I think he has cleared that already over and over again also.
PNP spokesperson Police Brigadier General Bernard Banac says those policemen will be used in the SEA Games, so they are recalling all who have police escort duties.
Minabuti nila na i-recall muna pansamantala ang lahat ng mga pulis nila na organic sa Region 3 na nakatalaga sa mga government officials natin at hindi po upang i-single out si General Aquino.
Banac adds these are all temporary until the SEA Games 2019 end. Based on the Alunan Doctrine, only 2 police escort from the Police Security and Protection Group or PSPG will be allowed to VIPs, but Aquino's police escort are from the Police Regional Office 3.
Ang inaiwasan lang din natin dito is yung masilip din na nga tayo. Dahil in other VIPs, we are very strict in implementing the Alunan Doctrine, no? But ito, we are extending courtesy already. Alam naman natin yung kalagayan ng DG ng PDEA.
It is the PDEA Director General who revealed in Senate the Ninja Cops recycling of illegal drugs with the help of the so-called Drug Queen of Manila. Leia Ilagan, UNTV News and Rescue, Camp Crame.
Police Brigadier General Gilbert Cruz denies that he wrote a letter addressed to President Rodrigo Duterte that he is applying for the next PNP chief post. Cruz adds he doesn't know about the letter and he has no idea who wrote it. Leia Ilagan returns to tell us why.
This is the letter that spread last Thursday. It is addressed to the President and is allegedly written by the Directorate for Integrated Police Operations, Northern Luzon Director, Police Brigadier General Gilbert Cruz. The letter is about General Cruz's intention to be the next chief of the Philippine National Police, his accomplishments, and his being qualified to lead the more than 200,000-strong PNP personnel are also contained in the letter. The UNTV News has tried to get General Cruz's opinion on the matter, but he refused to give an on-camera interview. Instead, he just released a statement on his official Facebook account. The statement is addressed to his friends, family, and Lacans, or the alumni of the Philippine National Police Academy or PNPA. He said he did not write the letter. He thanks his Lacan for their support. He says if he is given the chance to be the next chief PNP, he will accept the challenge without any hesitation and will do his best to serve all the Filipino people in the most excellent and humane way. He will not fail the public's expectation in him. But he says that this important decision belongs to the President. PNP Chief Police General Oscar Albayalde will retire on November 8, 2019 in his 56th birthday. But because of the controversy in the recycling of illegal drugs, some say he will be relieved earlier. If the PNP hierarchy is followed, Deputy Chief for Administration, Police Lieutenant General Fernando Mendez, will be the next in line. But he will be retiring this October, a month before Albayalde retires. Deputy Chief for Operations, Police Lieutenant General Archie Gamboa, and Chief Directorial Staff, Police Lieutenant General Camilo Cascolan, are now the successors of PNP Chief Albayalde. NCRPO Director, Police Major General Guillermo Eleazar, and Manila Police District Director, Police Brigadier General Vicente de Ramo Jr. may also be candidates. PNP spokesperson, Police Brigadier General Bernard Banac says the President may choose among the one-star generals or with the rank of Police Brigadier General for the PNP chief position. He adds those who are less than a year in the service are also qualified to be the next chief PNP if the President chooses them.
Nasa general rule, ang sinumang senior official na may isang taon na lamang nalalabi sa kanyang panungkulan hindi na maaring ma-promote sa next higher rank. Subalit sa case ng Chief PNP, position of the Chief PNP, ito po ay ayon pa rin, of course, sa discretion ng Pangulo.
Meanwhile, PNP Chief Albayalde has said he has no idea yet as to who will replace him as the country's top cop. Until now, President Rodrigo Duterte has not given a hint as to who will be General Albayalde's successor.
So far, wala pa. Ayaw naman natin pangunahin yung presidente dahil wala naman siyang hinihingi sa amin ng pangalan at recommendation. We leave that up to the president.
While waiting for the president to name the next PNP chief, General Albayalde has this message for his successor.
Ikaw ang maging successor ng isang tao, especially so if you are the chief or the commander, whether it's the PNP or the AFP, the keyword there is continuity.
Leia Ilagan, UNTV, News and Rescue, Camp Crame.
The new commandant of the Philippine Military Academy assures that the welfare of their cadets are being prioritized amid the rigid training they have to undergo to become full-fledged servant leaders. Nina Armilio details why.
Newly installed Commandant of Cadets, Brigadier General Romeo Bronner Jr. has declared war against hazing inside the Philippine Military Academy or PMA. Bronner wants to change the culture inside the institution by strengthening the PMA's honor system instead of focusing on physical standards. The PMA is governed by an honor code, which bars all cadets from any act of dishonesty, theft, and deception.
Yung honor code natin is, in fact, if you look at the honor code, it's perfect in itself, no? But the implementation is sometimes different among the cadets, different among the companies.
Aside from physical examination, Bronner plans to launch a program that will focus on the cadets' mental health to make sure that everybody who remains in the cadet corps is mentally fit. Amid the controversy of hazing deaths, the PMA still has no record of a plebe quitting the academy. The PMA assures parents and guardians that the cadets are well taken care of throughout the duration of their stay in the academy.
Nung nangyari ito, naging bukas ang PMA sa lahat ng klase ng investigasyon ng proper authorities po at wala po siyang tinago o wala po siyang cover-up na ginawa.
Nina Armilio, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
The Department of Agriculture or DA has assured the hogs illegally transported from Bulacan to Barangay Baloling in Mapandan, Pangasinan have already been culled. Harleen Delgado reports why.
According to Agriculture Secretary William Dar, the provincial government of Pangasinan was able to immediately implement the 1710 protocol after the culling of the illegally transported hogs from Bulacan to Pangasinan. This to prevent the spread of the African swine fever virus. 15 out of 30 blood samples tested by the Bureau of Animal Industry came out positive of the virus.
And when they were accosting the trader with the truck, of course, of about 30 heads, wala silang may pakita na dokumento, which means nag-alangan agad ang provincial government.
Secretary Dar says 20,000 pigs have been culled nationwide due to the ASF outbreak. However, the secretary clarifies only 1/3 of that number were ASF positive, while the rest had to be culled due to the 1-7-10 protocol. More than 13 areas in the country are now affected by the ASF virus. The DA vows to continue its monitoring and quarantine efforts. The provincial government of Pangasinan plans to file charges against airing hog traders who transport hogs illegally, especially those coming from ASF-affected areas. Meanwhile, Malacanang believes Agriculture Secretary William Dar is still competent enough to resolve the African swine fever in the country. Some organizations have criticized the alleged lack of transparency from the DA on the state of the ASF cases, especially the affected places and the number of hogs culled due to the outbreak.
I'm sure the Secretary of Agriculture is competent enough to handle this situation. He hasn't said anything about not handling it.
Harleen Delgado, UNTV News and Rescue, Manila.
House Deputy Speaker Luis Raymond Villafuerte defends the creation of a small committee on handling the amendments to the proposed 2020 national budget. Some senators continue to fire allegations against the House of Representatives over the proposed 2020 national budget. Vincent Arboleda will tell us why.
The lower house's action to create a small committee to add amendments to the General Appropriations Bill or GAB is labeled anomalous by some senators as it was passed in the third and final reading last September 20, 2019. But according to House Deputy Speaker on Finance Luis Raymond Villafuerte, the creation of such committee has been a practice for 30 years and is allowed by the Constitution.
Both houses, the Senate and the House, can create their own rules of procedure. So yung procedure namin legal.
Deputy Speaker Villafuerte further clarifies and reiterates the statement of House Speaker Alan Peter Cayetano that the creation of a small committee will only accept institutional amendments.
So lahat ito institutional, meaning walang magbe-benefit sa isang distrito, hindi magbe-benefit sa isang congressman. But this will benefit the whole country.
Some of the amendments are the 3 billion peso increase for buying palay, funding the mental health law, and providing additional funds for the increase of MMDA employees and traffic enforcers' wages. Villafuerte also assures Senate there is no pork in the proposed 2020 national budget. Vincent Arboleda, UNTV News and Rescue, House of Representatives.
Meanwhile, House Speaker Alan Peter Cayetano bears the details of the 9.52 billion peso amendment to the 4.1 trillion peso proposed 2020 national budget. 12 agencies and institutions will benefit from the said amendment. The Department of Agriculture will receive a 3.5 billion peso fund. Both the Philippine National Police and the Armed Forces of the Philippines will receive 1 billion pesos each for the development of their camps. The 9.52 billion peso amendment to the 2020 budget was sourced from the realigned funds coming from the Commission on Elections and the Department of Public Works and Highways.
We can argue all we want, but the reality is it's factual. Lahat ng nilagay namin changes, walang pork dyan. Whether it's the layman's concept of pork barrel or whether it's the Supreme Court decision, pork barrel, wala.
In other news, Senate wants to look into the copy of the Memorandum of Agreement between the Armed Forces of the Philippines and Dito Telecommunity Corporation. Meanwhile, DND Secretary Lorenzana says if necessary, he will amend the agreement before approving it. April Senedoza explains why.
Senate has asked the Department of National Defense or DND for a copy of the Memorandum of Agreement between the Armed Forces of the Philippines and Third Telco Dito Telecommunity Corporation. The agreement allows Dito to build towers inside military camps.
Would the MOA
be a document that can be furnished to the committee?
I think, yes, sir. It's not secret.
It can be.
It's not restricted. So it can, we can.
If it's not restricted,
The upper chamber have expressed concern over the presence of the Chinese-backed telco firm in military bases amid the issue on the disputed West Philippine Sea. Defense Secretary Delfin Lorenzana says he will talk to AFP personnel in charge with the facilities concerning the exact location of such towers in military camps. The DND official has yet to receive the recommendation of its legal office on the MOA, but he will decide on it in a week.
I am the approving authority anyway, so I can remand it back to the HQ.
I trust that you will exercise your good judgment to have amendments where you find it contrary to our national security and national interest.
April Senedoza, UNTV News and Rescue, Senate of the Philippines.
Welcome back to Y News. Defense Secretary Delfin Lorenzana says they are in talks with the Australian government over the acquisition of offshore patrol vessels for the Philippine Navy. Lorenzana mentioned this during the Senate committee hearing on the proposed budget of the Department of National Defense for 2020. April Senedoza details why.
The Department of National Defense is asking President Rodrigo Duterte to exempt them from his order to suspend all loan negotiations with countries which favor the investigation on the Duterte administration's anti-drug war. During the Senate hearing on the proposed budget for 2020, Senate Minority Leader Franklin Drilon mentioned Lorenzana's appeal to exempt DND. Lorenzana told some senators the DND has pending negotiations with the Australian government over the acquisition of 30 billion pesos worth of patrol vessels for the Philippine Navy.
Thank you. We are currently in talks with the Australian government for them to build our 6 offshore patrol vessels. And they are willing to finance it first.
Lorenzana said he will send a formal request to the president to completely state their appeal. The DND chief argued the order will affect the modernization program of the Armed Forces of the Philippines. Presidential spokesperson and Chief Presidential Legal Counsel Salvador Panelo has earlier said the president will evaluate such appeal. According to Panelo, the president might approve the request if it involves the country's national security. April Senedoza, UNTV News and Rescue, Senate of the Philippines.
Meanwhile, Malacanang belittles the proposal of some American senators to ban the entry to the U.S. of Philippine officials behind Senator Laila de Lima's detention. But Vice President Leni Robredo does otherwise. Rosalie Cos explains why.
Government officials of other countries have the right to criticize the Duterte administration. Malacanang insists, however, that U.S. Senators Richard Durbin and Patrick Leahy abused their freedom of expression when they said that Senator Laila de Lima had been wrongfully detained. The 2 U.S. senators have earlier made a proposal to ban the entry of Philippine government officials behind the detention of the Philippine lady senator to the USA. But the palace belittles that proposal.
The views of the 2 senators are in the minority. Otherwise, some senators would have supported that. In other words, that ban will be only effective upon approval of both houses of Congress of the United States.
Malacanang has mentioned before that the 2 U.S. senators' move is an intrusion to the Philippine sovereignty since the detention of Senator de Lima went through legal process and is already within the jurisdiction of the local courts. Meanwhile, Secretary Panelo says he is not worried of being banned from entering America. The official stresses that aside from being there many times before, there are many other countries to visit.
The proposed ban is with reference only to government officials who, according to the senator, when the state secretary has credible information, well, look at the word credible information, that these officials have something to do with the wrongful So dalawa ang kulatilya eh. Unang-una, can it be credible when you say that this official has something to do? Pangalawa, wrongful. Hindi nga wrongful imprisonment eh.
Meanwhile, according to Vice President Leni Robredo, America has the right to bar Philippine officials behind Senator De Lima's detention. Rosa Licoz, UNTV News and Rescue, Malacanang.
President Rodrigo Duterte has appointed former Presidential Communications Assistant Secretary Esther Margot Moca Uson as an executive of the Overseas Workers Welfare Administration, or OWA. Based on the list of presidential appointees released by Malacanang on Monday, the pro-Duterte blogger was appointed last September 23 as Deputy Executive Director 5 or Deputy Administrator of OWA. She will be assuming the post vacated by Arnel Ignacio, who resigned in February. Uson resigned from her post in the Presidential Communications Operations Commission, or PCOO, in October 2018 to run as a party list representative in the May 2019 midterm elections. Prior to her appointment to the PCOO, she had a brief stint as a member of the Movie and Television Review Classification Board in January 2017. Meanwhile, Austria's Conservative People's Party, led by former Chancellor Sebastian Kurz, has won a clear victory in Sunday's general election. With nearly all the votes counted, Mr. Kurz's party has more than 38% of the vote, up from 31% last time round. His former coalition partners, the far-right Freedom Party, have received 17.3%, a sharp fall. Despite the People's Party's strong showing, it will not have a majority in parliament, and Mr. Kurz will need coalition partners. The snap general election was called after a scandal caused by the previous coalition government to collapse. German police shut down an illegal data center in a former NATO bunker located in western Germany on Friday and arrested 7 people. They are suspected of membership in a criminal organization, as well as being accessories to hundreds of thousands of offenses involving drugs, counterfeit money, and child pornography. According to investigators, the former NATO premises were acquired in 2013 by a Dutchman and turned into a huge data processing center. 5 people were injured in a fire that broke out at a high-speed train station in Saudi Arabia's western city of Jeddah. Meanwhile, a fire broke out at a container inside a crowded refugee camp on the eastern Greek island of Lesbos, killing at least 1 person. Kath Dumaraos tells us why.
In Greece, at least 1 person has died after a fire broke out at an overcrowded refugee camp on the Greek island of Lesbos, local officials say. They say the charred body of a woman was found at Moria camp, but unconfirmed reports say there was another victim, a child. Police later fired tear gas against rioting migrants who said firefighters were too slow to respond to the blaze. The camp houses about 12,000 people in tents and shipping containers, but it only has an official capacity of 3,000, leading to severe overcrowding. Greece has been dealing with a resurgence in refugee and migrant flows in recent weeks from neighboring Turkey. Nearly 1 million refugees fleeing war in Syria and migrants crossed from Turkey to Greece's islands in 2015. In Saudi Arabia, fire broke out in the Haramain high-speed rail station in Saudi Arabia's coastal city of Jeddah, injuring at least 5 people, the authorities said on Sunday. The 450-kilometer Haramain railway linking the 2 holiest cities in Islam, Mecca and Medina, with the Red Sea city of Jeddah was opened in 2018 and cost 6.7 billion euros. The station is part of efforts to boost tourism revenue as the country seeks to shed its dependence on oil exports. In the USA, CVS Health Corp said on Saturday it will discontinue sales of the popular Zantac heartburn treatment and its own generic ranitidine products from its pharmacies after traces of a known carcinogen were found in some of the products by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration. The FDA said earlier this month that some of the pills contain small amounts N-nitrosodimethylamine, which has also been found in some widely used blood pressure medicines, leading to shortages of those drugs. CVS said the move to suspend sales of the over-the-counter heartburn drug was taken out of caution while the FDA continues to review if low levels of NDMA in ranitidine, the active ingredient in Zantac, poses a health risk to patients. Novartis AGS Sandoz unit said last week it was halting distribution of Zantac in all its markets, including the United States and Canada, following safety review of the drug by U.S. and European drug regulators. Retailers Walmart, Walgreens, and Rite Aid have also moved to remove Zantac products from store shelves in the U.S. Kat Dumaraos, UNTV News and Rescue.
Two London entrepreneurs are slashing the cost of prosthetics by creating a multi-tool style arm which can be customized by swapping attachments for different tasks. Jovic Burmas has the details.
A company has built an arm which they say will cost under 500 sterling pounds. In the UK, the price for traditional prosthetics can range from 5,000 to 10,000.
We make them sort of more like clothes and shoes. So they're comfy, they're really easy to fit, you can send them through the post to people, and by virtue of all that simplicity, they're like really affordable.
The arm features soft fabric that can be tightened or loosened. It also has a magnetic clip that can pick up a variety of attachments. These include those for a toothbrush, paintbrush, skipping rope, and hairbrush. Users can also use a pen, knife, spoon, and drumsticks. Its adjustability and low cost means it is suitable for children. Parents do not need to regularly spend thousands on replacement arms as their children grow.
What we've learned over the last 3 years is that 90% of people with limb loss are in low-income region. There's people out there, a lot of people with nothing at all. And that's what really excites us, that this is something that can be scalable to them and hopefully help them out one day.
The entrepreneurs have been working closely with amputee Alex Lewis. In 2013, he contracted a streptococcal infection. What began with flu-like symptoms led him to require a triple limb amputation within 12 days.
I just think that the concept is brilliant. I think the product is brilliant. And for an arm amputee, as I say, in the UK, there's not many of us. But the global impact on this for children and amputees globally is huge. It will be huge.
The company has been trialing its product for the last 2 years and plans to make it available to buy in Europe next year. It will be available online rather through healthcare professionals. Jovic Burmas, UNTV News and Rescue, London, United Kingdom.
Certified Moira fans star in Wish 1075's Sing-Alike Moira contest in Cebu City. Aside from the opportunity to sing, contestants can also win free tickets to the Braver Moira concert Visayas leg. Gladys Tuabi tells us why.
Single or married, they don't hesitate to join the contest launched by Wish 1075 in Cebu City, in which any Cebuano can sing like singer-songwriter Moira de la Torre. One of them is journalist Iris Mascardo, who sang Ikaw at Ako with much feeling. Another is 21-year-old Regina Carla Albino, sang the Titibo Tibo. Not only Iris and Regina, but all Cebuanos are invited to the Sing Like Moira contest. It is open to all Cebuano amateur singers 16 to 45 years old. Just visit Garden Row, Ayala Mall Central Block, Cebu IT Park on these dates for a chance to win cash and Braver Moira concert tickets. The Visayas leg of the Braver Moira concert series is happening on October 25 at the Pacific Grand Ballroom Waterfront Hotel, Cebu City. Catch singer-songwriter Aiza Sigera, Wish Cover first runner-up Kimberly Baluzo, folk acoustic band I Belong to the Zoo, and Bisaya pop artist Kurt Fick, who will join Moira in entertaining the Cebu City crowd. For more details, just visit Wish FM social media pages.
And those are the reasons behind the news this September 30, 2019. On behalf of Alex Baltazar, I am William Theo, and before we close, we will recap with today's significant sound bites. Because we need to know, we will always ask why. Good evening.
Pinalalabas kasi ng LTFRB na hindi na kami kailangan. Ngayon, pinakita namin na kailangan pa kami ng serbisyo ng mamamayan.
Kakansela yung prangkisa nila, which we already have done, even in the past administration.
None, of course, none. Nag-usap kami ni General Aquino. In fairness naman sa kanya, sinabi niya it has nothing to do with yung lalo na yung nasabi niyang Ramat. I think he has cleared that already over and over again also. Ikaw ang maging successor ng isang tao, especially so if you are the chief or the commander, whether it's the PNP or the AFP, the keyword there is continuity.
Thank you. We are currently in talks with the Australian government for them to build our 6 offshore patrol vessels. And they are willing to finance it first.
The views of the 2 senators are in the minority. Otherwise, some senators would have supported that.